let's talk about another trend. The trend of doing more with less. This is a trend in design. Now, for Americans, I think more than people from other parts of the world, this kind of freaks us out because we think it means we have to go on a diet and lower our ambitions of material wealth. But that's not what it's about. You know, less is only better, less is only more when less is better. And there's a lot of cases where that's true. It's really about simplicity. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Let me talk about how they did it on the Nano. This is Ratan Tata. Those of you from India will know him very well. He's the chairman of the Tata Group, a group of about 100 companies doing about $70 billion a year. And they do things like cars, cell phones, steel, shipping, trucks. They also own Taj Hotels. So this is a guy who really knows how to run a big organization, but he's also a guy who's very, very focused on what really has a purpose in business and what the purpose of their business is. So it's a rainy day in Bangalore, October of 2002. The monsoons have just started. He comes out of a meeting, gets into his car, and says to his driver, "Be careful out there. With this fresh rain, the roads are going to be slick. There could be accidents. Let's be very careful." They get out in traffic, and sure enough, it's a mess out there. And after a while, a family on a scooter goes zipping past them. And again, he says to his driver, "Watch out. Be careful. They could wipe out. This could be bad." And then they pulled in front of him, tried to make a left turn against traffic, and wiped out. Bodies flying everywhere. So he gets out of his car with his driver. They help the people. Fortunately, nobody's killed. They wait till the ambulances come, and they help the people. Then they get back in the car and continue on their way. And he is pissed because he has talked about this before. He's seen this problem before. He even once spoke about it at an industrial conference of car and scooter makers and said, maybe we should find a way to solve this problem. But he never did anything about it. And now it's hit him really close to home, and he really cares, and he has a cause. So he calls a group of people together, and they start working on this problem. And they create a car called the Nano. It took them 5 years. The first 2 years were spent completely spinning their wheels. They didn't quite know where they were going to go. It seats 5, 54 miles per gallon. It's got all the European crash test safety. And look at that price, $2,100. And it's a real car. And just to put that into perspective, the first people's car was the Model T, which was introduced almost 100 years to the day before the Nano. The Model T in today's 2012 dollars cost $21,000. 10 times more than this. We have become geniuses at building and designing and organizing ways to take costs out of products. Now, how did they do it? Everybody talked about this. This was all over the press, what a great thing it was and how they did it. But nobody wrote much about how they did it. And so I'm going to talk about that. And really the way they did it was they just simplified everything. When I said take 70% out of every part, that's really how in the end they figured out that they would attack it. And it's really a question of elegant design. Elegant design has been the hallmark of Apple for years, hallmark of a lot of great companies. It's the hallmark of this incredible building that we're in. And elegant design really is just about using the best way to do something, the most economical, the least amount that you need, and nothing more. And if you're going to make a car for $2,100, that's got to be your mantra. For example, they had a supplier who was an engine components maker who supplied a lot of things for them in different engines. And they went to him and, somebody said, we need 70% off the cost of this engine component, and the door was slammed in their face, right? You say that to people and they get wax in their ears. They just don't return your calls. So the procurement people went to the head of engine design, who's kind of a big shot in the auto industry in India, told him about the problem, and he said, well, I know the CEO over there. Let me give him a call. So he calls the CEO and says, I'm coming over for tea. Doesn't tell him why. And then marches into the guy's office with the whole procurement team. And they locked the door. They actually made him turn off his cell phone. And they spent the afternoon in his office playing what if, drawing things on the board. And he's not listening because you're talking cost and he's still hearing price. But after a little while, he gets it. He grabs the marker and he goes up to the board and he starts playing what if. What if we did it this way? And then he was engaged in a creative exercise of trying to find a new way to look at this part. And what if you changed this part of the engine design? Then if you did that, then we could do this. This could be smaller. It could weigh less. And suddenly they were off, and he was part of Team Nano. Bosch, the German electronics company, was asked to work on the ECU. ECU on a normal German car, that's the engine control unit that manages the engine, normally costs about $700 to the manufacturer. So, you know, if your budget's got to be under $2,000, you can't have that. So Bosch thought, you know, maybe we can take 20 to 30% out of the cost of an ECU. But as they started working on it with the engineers, with the engine designers, they suddenly realized that they had a chip for a European little motor that ran irrigation pumps. And if there's some design changes were made to the engine, this little chip for that engine would run this engine. And they, instead of getting the cost down to 50 or 70% less than normal, they got 80% of the cost out of the unit. That's really revolutionary. And when that starts to happen, you really start to get momentum in a project. So we're redefining in our new economy what ROI means. ROI now is return on innovation. And the spoils are going to go to those who can do the most innovative work in the most innovative ways with the most innovative products for the least amount of investment. Let me give you an example. You go to almost any hospital in almost any town in Africa, and you are likely to find a super expensive $100,000 plus neonatal incubator for premature babies. You're likely to find it parked in a stairwell somewhere covered with dust because 2 years after it arrived, it broke down, and there was nobody in the country who knew how to fix these things. They'd been given by NGOs, well-meaning, but nobody could keep them running. So a group called Design That Matters came in, and they said, okay, if there's nobody who knows how to fix, you know, high-end medical equipment in this country, then what do we have? And what they realized you have in any town in Africa is shade tree mechanics who can keep used cars running forever. So they built an incubator using all car parts. The heat source is a pair of Toyota headlights. All the wiring, switches, fuses, anything on it is from cars. So if it breaks down, they can just roll it out to any mechanic down the street. He can put new parts in it, fix it, and it's running. Or the Jaipur knee. A prosthetic knee made out of titanium costs about $50,000. So the kinds of things that you and I would get if we had that problem. But in India, people don't have that kind of money. So a couple of grad students at Stanford's D School, which is their design school, took on the problem. They designed a nylon polymer knee that cost $20. Now, is it as good as the $50,000 titanium one? To this kid it is, because it's the one that's on his leg. And this may be one small step for a kid in India, but it's a huge step for humankind when we can start to develop solutions to problems that cost a whole lot less. And that's really what nanovation is all about.